Welcome back students to Nuzhat ma'am ke online classes. Today we are back with an interesting video. So this video will be of standard 9, chapter 5, Introduction to Computer. As you can see, there are several icons present on the screen. The first is Windows, second is Linux, third is Apple, and the fourth Android. Now let's move further. So here in this video, we will cover the topics like introduction to an operating system, definition of an operating system, functions of an operating system, and typical components of an operating system. So first of all, let's see the introduction of operating system. Even though the CPU is very fast, it can do simple operations like adding to numbers, multiplying to numbers, etc., but not much more. So to do any more simple things too, it needs series of instructions. So let me tell you, from childhood, we have been telling you that CPU is the brain of the computer, but it can do very simple things, simple operations like adding to numbers, multiplying to numbers, but not much more than that. So to do much more than that, we need series of instructions. Now here, the word instructions says program. Okay, so here in the textbook, at a lot of places, instructions word is used that means program. Okay, so here, simple operations like, which are the simple operations? That is input of a number or output of text, converting a string of characters to uppercase, displaying an image on the screen must be built on top of these basic capabilities by writing a series of basic instructions or a set of instructions, which is known as program. Okay. Also, computer has large number of peripheral devices, okay, like keyboard, mouse, monitor, hard disk, optical disk, printers, and even other removable devices. So operating these devices require executing a long and a complex series of basic instructions. So we can say that complex the task, complex the series of basic instructions, right? That means that it can do simplest things. Just it's the matter of instructions. As I told you, it's like a lion and the master. A lion does whatever his master instructs him to do. Further, we will see resources of a computer. So here, a modern computer system has a variety of resources like CPU, memory, secondary storage device, network, peripheral devices, etc. Now, these resources are accessed by multiple programs running concurrently, that is simultaneously. So here, these resources need some authority that mediates, that is regulates access of these resources. So a computer without any kind of software for doing about tasks practically unusable, that is useless device because it may not even have the basic interface to interact with the user. For example, you are having a smartwatch which do not have any operating system. How you will operate it? You don't have any operating system. You don't know how to connect with it. You don't have a basic interface. So thus, operating system needed there in order to provide a consistent experience to the user, which is convenient also, there needs to be a common framework for the common human computer interactions. So thus, an operating system exists to satisfy all these needs. So here's the need of operating system is felt. Now you know why we are learning about operating system. So here, what is an operating system? So in simple words, we can say that an operating system is the controller, resource allocator, and common service provider for a computer system. Like the administrator, it performs this function to ensure smooth and mostly trouble-free operation of the computer. Let me tell you, in the end of this video, I'll be telling you an interesting fact about an operating system. Let's continue this video. Startup process of computer. We will see how the computer starts up. Basically, first thing we do when we start a computer is that we press the CPU button, right? So what does it do? So CPU initializes itself by bringing all its subcomponents, it's like printer, mouse, monitor, and it brings all its subcomponents in a known and ready to use state. After initialization, it needs the instructions to be executed by the CPU. Now here, you have to see that instructions are executed by the CPU. So PC is on, so CPU will check for all the necessary hardware to be in ready to use state. So the second step, which is here, the computer has a type of permanent memory called ROM. on personal computers, and this is known as ROM BIOS. Okay, so as we know, ROM stands for read only memory, and here BIOS is standing for basic input output system, or also known as simply BIOS. So BIOS very first instruction is loaded by CPU. BIOS contains an initial program called post. Here post means power on self test. Post performs a basic check on all other components and peripheral devices in the computer and initializes them so they are ready for use. Now here devices are getting ready for use. So here the post is completed, and after the next step is sequence is to locate operating system from the hard disk. Now operating system, that is a program, is already built in installed in that computer in the hard disk. So we are looking for that. An operating system loads itself into memory and starts executing itself. So operating system is located and loaded from the hard disk to the memory. Now here memory stands for RAM. So what does RAM stand for? So RAM stands for random access memory. Okay. Now after operating system is loaded fully, it will take control of the entire computer system. And thus this entire process is known as a booting process also. Now functions of an operating system. So here as you can see, there are various functions of an operating system. So here we will be seeing all these functions one by one. First is providing hardware access as a common service. Each program would come with a set of instructions to handle a fixed set of devices. Now, when a device, for example, let's say printer, okay, it is added to a computer. Now it becomes necessary to add the necessary instructions to handle the new printer to various programs on the computer. Nowadays, there are digital printers. Like the printers have software app also, which you can install in the mobile, and then you can carry out the task. So here, that's also an operating system, right? So with the rapid increase in the number of devices and devices manufacturers, as well as the number of programs to be run, it becomes infeasible. That is, it becomes uneasy to add instructions to handle that device, so that an operating system provides a common service of handling the hardware devices. So here it just provides a common service to do multiple tasks. It possesses code. Code means instructions to handle the particular devices would be part of the OS, and the OS would provide access to these devices to individual programs as a common service. Okay, so when a new device came into use, the new instructions needed to operate it would have only to be added to the OS, that is operating system. The next is controlling, regulating, and supervising resources in the computer. So here, modern computers are more powerful than their humble predecessors, and they have access to greater amounts to resources like processing power, main memory, storage, etc. So here, as a result, they are capable of running not just one program at a time, but many programs at a time. And this ability of the computer or the operating system is known as multi-programming. So here multi means many programs which are run at the same time, that is simultaneously. So here disadvantage of multi-programming. So there is a disadvantage of multi-programming, that when only one program is running at a time, it has full access to all the resources and there is no harm in it. But in case of multi-programming, two programs may access to common resources. Third is handling multiprocessor systems. So a computer system having more than one CPU, that is processor, is known as multiprocessor system. Managing which processors to be used for execution is also a job of operating system. So here, as you can see, there are multiprocessor given. There is single core, dual core, quad core, hexa core, octa core, dexa core. So single core stands for 1, dual stands for 2, quad stands for 4, hexa stands for 6, octa stands for 8, and dexa stands for 10. Okay. So here the fourth function we see is starting and stopping program execution. When the computer starts, initially it runs only the operating system. The operating system takes complete controls of the computer system. Then it also runs a special one program called the shell. Now here, shell comes in the picture. So the shell provides a user interface to the user. The user interface allows the user to indicate what they want to do. Like the user will tell what task they want to do. So the user interface allows the user to accept requests for performing operations from the user and initiates actions to fulfill those requests or those tasks. As operating system has full control over the system, only it can start or stop programs. Next is controlling access to the memory. Main memory is an important resource for the computer system. Now here, because it is only large scale form of memory that can match the speed of CPU and directly accessed by the CPU, any program to be run must be loaded into main memory. So therefore, access to the main memory is under complete control of operating system. So just like access to other resources. Now here we can see a picture which makes easy understanding of main memory, operating system and CPU, which is, so from the main memory it goes to operating system, which is a process needed to get or release some amount of main memory must request operating system for the same, and no process is permitted to access memory not allocated to it by the OS. So this is known as memory protection also, which again goes to main memory. Sixth is serving multiple users at the same time. So here, as you can see in picture, it is serving multiple users simultaneously. So an operating system may be designed for use by only one user at a time, that is a single user system, or by several users simultaneously, that is a multi-user system. With a multi-user operating system, it is possible to run the programs of many users on a single computer, which is called server, with each user performing input and output through their terminal that may have keyboard, mouse, and monitor. So here, a multi-user system also provides additional benefits like centralized management and resource sharing. For example, file. If one person needs to share a file to other person, it is easily done in a multi-user system. A computer system in a faraway corner of the world can be accessed remotely by the users over the internet. So we can say that over the internet, person from two different countries can also access the same computer system. Okay. The next is some companies even provide their employees the option to work from their home, which was seen majorly in the COVID era. The next is providing security. When multiple users are accessing the same computer system, the operating system must provide some level of isolation between the users so that one user cannot disturb the work of another user. So here, at the same time where users are collaborating on a joint project, they must be able to share some resources. And the operating system must provide a security mechanism that ensures that all the authorized users of a resource are permitted, and all attempts at unauthorized users are strictly denied. So how this can be done? Here the word resources are permitted. It can be done by a password. And nowadays there are some files who have the password, and if you have the particular password, you are able to access that file. So we can do that by doing this. So with the heavy use of computer networks and the internet, it is also possible to access and use a computer system remotely, possibly from thousands of kilometers away. Right now, only I told that people sitting in two different countries can also use the same computer system. So it can also be misused for gaining unauthorized access to someone's computer. And modern operating systems provide some basic mechanisms to protect against such hazards, though they may not be sufficient by themselves. The next is providing other common services. Operating system also provides many common services to make the operation of the computer system very easier. So many of these services remain hidden from the user because they are not used by the other programs in the computer and not by the human users directly. So operating systems also come with some companion programs, utilities or accessories that are small and simple and yet useful to most users of the computer. So it includes a utility to explore the information stored on computer, that is files, browser, basic text editor, that is Notepad or Word, a calculator, programs to view and edit images, programs to play audio and video, a web browser for surfing the internet, etc. So these are the other common services which are provided by operating system. Now here we see typical components of an operating system. Now here there are the device drivers, the kernel, the shell, the file system. Let's see them one by one. So the device drivers. So here, as you can see in picture, the user is interacting to the operating system, which is interacting then with the device driver, and which is contacting the hardware. Now here at the lowest level is the raw hardware of the computer. Hardware are often called the raw iron, that is an immensely powerful machine but has no clue as what to do. So if I tell you that there you have a powerful hardware but you don't have any operating system in it, will it be useful to you? No, right? It will be useless. So hardware consists of a diverse set of devices and each requires potentially different set of instructions to operate. Now computer hardware is totally useless without device drivers. So the device drivers are the small programs that contain the instructions necessary for using these devices. Many drivers come along with operating system, while some may have to be installed separately from a disk or the internet to the computer. The kernel. The kernel is also known as the core part, that is an heart of an operating system. Uses device drivers for operating and controlling the hardware. Now here we see the kernel, which is the heart of an operating system. So here the kernel is the core component or the main program of the operating system. A traditional kernel performs all the key functions of an operating system, including detecting new hardware when attached and loading appropriate device drivers to access it, accessing and controlling all hardware devices through the device drivers. Next, resource allocation and management. Then we have creating and stopping and controlling program execution, scheduling program execution, providing CPU input and output, and memory protection, input and output management, memory management, security, etc. By some definitions, the kernel is the operating system. We can say that by some definitions, kernel is the operating system, right? Now here comes the shell. The shell, the kernel is invisible component of an operating system, while the shell is the most visible component of an operating system. Now here we can say that a shell allows the user to express their wishes to the computer system by providing a user interface. So we can say that shell provides a user interface, that is UI. Here there are two main categories of user interfaces, that is CLI and GUI. So CLI, that is command line interface. At present CLI is in use. CLI works by repeatedly accepting textual commands from the user and executing them. And GUI, here at present GUI is very much popular because it is graphical user interface which makes interaction very interesting. And in GUI the user does not have to remember textual commands, and which is convenient to the user also. So in GUI environment, the screen contains pictorial elements like desktop, windows, icons, menus, buttons, etc. Majority of work is done with the help of mouse or mouse pointer on GUI. File system of Linux operating system. So the operating system provides a file system interface to the secondary storage. Now here, a file system mainly contains two types of objects. Remember those: files and directories. What are files? A file is the basic unit of secondary data storage on computers. Now, any data that the user wants to store will go at some file in the file system. Now, the files are identified by their names, which are much easier to remember than the absolute addresses known as block numbers. As a disk has a large number of files, directories are used to organize them. So we can say that in the directories there are files, and directories are also known as folders. So a directory is a container that may contain many files as well as other directories known as subdirectories. Every file system starts with its root directory, and then root directory may contain files as well as subdirectories. Each file system has single root directory and it is starting point of the file system. Each directory in the file system contains a number of objects, files and directories, and each must have a unique name within that directory. For example, there is a directory named 12, and in that directory there are subdirectories also, and in that directory there is a file named as ABCD. So that ABCD is the unique name of that file. So knowing object name may be enough as it is guaranteed to be unique within its directory. Otherwise, we have to specify the absolute, that is full path leading to the object. Each of these components is separated by a special character that not permitted in the file or directory names. Now this uniquely identifies an object in the entire file system. How interesting it is that there are directories, there are subdirectories, and in that we have to file and we have to search for one file, which is very easy, which is very convenient through the file system. A blank disk initially contains no file system. The initial blank file system structure is created by an operation known as formatting the disk. So a hard disk can contain multiple partitions. Each partition may be formatted to contain a separate and independent file system. Formatting one partition does not affect the other. So here, as we know that hard disk has many partitions like volume A, volume B, C drive disk and all. So the other provides utilities for viewing, modifying and formatting the disk and the partitions. So here, file system of Linux operating system. Linux generally use some version of the extended file system, which is extension 2, 3 and 4, though several others also available and are in use. The extended file system is case sensitive, that is, capital and small letters are treated as two different characters. So you may have two files with name F1 and uppercase F1 in the same directory. It uses the slash character as the path separator. Using the extension part of the file name to signify its type is not mandatory and is weakly used. That is, it is rarely used in some cases. USB flash disk and memory cards used with the mobile phones usually come formatted with the FAT file, but the former can be reformatted to NTFS to obtain the benefits of performance and some security. Now, CDs also use the ISO 9660 file system, and DVDs also use the UDF file system. So here, GUI and components of operating system. Everything that comes with the operating system is changeable except the kernel. And remember, the kernel is the heart of the operating system. So the device drivers, the shells, the libraries, the utility programs can all be changed without changing the operating system. Some free and open source operating systems like Linux provides a number of choices, and though some proprietary operating systems does not offer a choice in shells or utilities. Such choices are available from third-party vendors as well as the open source communities. Now, these considerations have given rise to a definition that kernel and only the kernel is the operating system. All the other things are changeable and hence are just auxiliary accessories. So, the user experience is provided by the shell and the shell is totally changeable. As we know that the shell gives us two types of interface, that is CLI and GUI, right? So the screen of Windows systems and Linux systems look quite similar. First two screenshots are taken on Windows system and the second two screenshots are taken on Linux system. So here we end our video, which is part 1 of chapter 5 standard 9 operating system. I hope you enjoyed it learning, and now comes time for interesting fact, right? So here, as we are learning about operating systems, I would like to tell you the first digital computers had no operating systems, and they ran one program at a time, which had command of all system resources, and a human operator would provide any special resources needed. So the first operating systems were developed in the mid 1950s. Okay, so we cannot call them operating systems, but we can call them small supervisor programs. Okay, so that provided basic input and output operations such as controlling punch card readers and printers. In that time, there were punch card readers. So they used to control that and kept accounts of CPU usage for billing. So supervisor programs also provided multi-programming capabilities to enable several programs to run at once. At that time also there was multi-programming. So this was particularly important so that these early multi-million dollar machines would not be idle during slow input output operations, right? So here we come to an end, and I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you, and reach out to us if you have any queries. You can mail us also, and you can check out our website too. Thank you so much.